Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Home Media Reviews. This review is on the sequel to The Incredibles, Incredibles 2. Don't know why I needed to announce this was a sequel to The Incredibles because it literally has Incredibles 2 in the title, but nevertheless, hello, we're back for another installment of Home Media Reviews. I'm so glad that you decided to join me for this overly long preamble into the actual video. Let's not waste any time, let's jump right into the history section of Incredibles 2. So Incredibles 2 hit theaters on June 15th, 2018, a whopping 14 years after the original film first came out. Think about it. Toy Story got sequels. Finding Nemo had a sequel. Monsters, Inc. had a prequel. It would get a sequel series later on Disney Plus, which is actually pretty good. You should check that out. But Monsters, Inc. had a prequel. Even Cars, arguably Pixar's most hated franchise, had 2 sequels by this point. Incredibles got no sequel love until 2018. And the director, Brad Bird, claims the reason for that is because he didn't have a good idea for a sequel to Incredibles. Which, okay, that's admirable. I wouldn't come back and make a sequel for something if I didn't have a good idea for it either. So, you know what, Brad Bird? That's a good reason. We'll talk about whether or not this idea he came up with for the sequel is good or not later on in the review, but that is the reason that he gives as to why it took forever to finally get a sequel to arguably Pixar's best movie. I saw Incredibles 2 in theaters opening weekend. I was there by myself. I didn't have any friends that actually wanted to see this movie, surprisingly enough. I went by myself. I did the full big IMAX experience, well, kind of cheapo IMAX. I have this theater in my town. It's called Escape, and it has this extreme Escape theater that has like a 3-story tall screen, recliner seats, even though that's kind of standard in a lot of movie theaters nowadays. It's not a franchise, I don't think. I've only ever seen one in my town. Let me know if you guys have something similar in your town. It's not IMAX because it's not branded as IMAX. IMAX is very closed off when it comes to how they brand their theaters. So it's not IMAX, but it was a huge screen. It was the closest thing to IMAX that I could possibly get. And I had a good time watching this in the theater. It was a fun movie experience, although there were a lot of children in my audience, which would make sense. This is a Pixar movie. Parents think that they can just dump their kids in the theater and they'll pay attention throughout the whole thing. That did not happen at my showing of Incredibles. It wasn't a terrible audience. I don't really remember a lot about it, so it wasn't a terrible audience. Incredibles 2 then hit 4K/Blu-ray/DVD on November 6th, 2018. I was there at Best Buy the first day it came out, picking up my 4K copy. I remember, I think it came out the same day as Christopher Robin did on 4K, so that was kind of cool. I also remember that Superman the movie was coming out on 4K around this time, and I thought I could pick that up as well on November 6th, but it wasn't out yet. Guess I got my dates mixed up. Here's a funny story too. As I was in line to pick up my copy of Incredibles 2, I look behind me and this guy has a cart filled with Incredibles 2 Blu-rays. So I turn around and I'm like, there's no way I can't ask what this is about. So I go, hey man, you a big fan of Incredibles 2? And he goes, yeah, I work for Redbox. They don't actually give us the Disney titles. We have to go out and buy them ourselves. So there's some insider information for you. The Walt Disney Corporation does not provide Redbox with copies of their movies to put in their rental kiosks. That makes sense. Of course, Disney wouldn't give you discs for free. Disney doesn't like to give out their content for free. They want to keep selling it to you over and over and over again. Speaking of Best Buy, there was a Best Buy exclusive steelbook. I did not pick up the steelbook. I didn't like the artwork for it. It wasn't as good as the first Incredibles movie steelbook artwork. You guys know how much I love that artwork. This one was a little simplistic. It just had It was a washing machine that had a brief glimpse at one of the Incredibles suits inside of it. I don't know, it just didn't click with me. There was a Target exclusive digipack with a gallery book and a storybook. I remember around my town, a couple of Targets had a bunch of copies of these just sitting on their store shelves, and eventually they clearanced them out. I think they were like $9 at one point. I kind of wish I'd picked one up. That would have been cool to have, but I didn't really need it. No Walmart exclusive to speak of, but there was a Disney Movie Club exclusive set, which included a Blu-ray copy with new poster art, a limited pin set, so for all you pin collectors out there, you could have got some of those, a note with character sketches on it, a tumbler, which is pretty nice, and goldfish. Like the snack. Goldfish. Did you guys ever eat those when you were a kid? I never really cared for them that much. There was a Blu-ray reprint that came out on September 24th, 2019. This was released to match the other Pixar Blu-ray reprints. It's got simplistic artwork with Elastigirl on the front of it. It matches the Incredibles reprint that just has Mr. Incredible on it. And we also talked about this last week. There was a 2-movie Blu-ray collection that came out on March 2nd, 2021. And as of right now, that is the most current copy of Incredibles 2 that is out there on Blu-ray right now. The 4K has not been reprinted since it first came out. So that wraps up the history section. Let's move right along to the close-up. Alrighty everyone, here's your close-up look at Incredibles 2. We only have one copy to look at. It's the standard 4K version of Incredibles 2. I didn't pick up the Steelbook because I didn't like the way it looked. It looked too basic and plain. I think this poster art is so much better. So, we'll take a look at it here. 4K Ultra HD up there at the top. 4K plus Blu-ray plus digital code. A little sticker here. 4 times sharper than HD. Includes new mini-movie and then talks about movies anywhere. And then this poster art, oh my gosh, you cannot tell me that this poster art is bad. It is so good. I absolutely love this poster. Incredibles 2 down there at the bottom. Ultimate Collector's Edition, even though it's not Ultimate nor Collector's Edition. It's the standard 4K release, Disney. I don't know why you keep putting that on your 4K releases. These aren't Collector's Editions. These are just the standard releases. The spine, Ultra HD Blu-ray, Incredibles 2. Mrs. Incredible, this time instead of Mr. Incredible, because she's kind of the main character of this movie, with your product number. The back, blurb about the movie, barcode peeking out there, Mrs. Incredible again. We have the mini-movie about Auntie Edna, as well as the Pixar short film Bao. I think that's how you pronounce that. And then blurbs about how 4K works and what you'll need to watch it, and then blurbs about Blu-ray, tech specs, copyright information. It has to let you know that the iTunes version does in fact require an iTunes account. I don't know why you need to put that there. But yeah, this slipcover is also embossed and it is shiny. Underneath, we have the same poster art, same spine, same back. And if we open this up, our discs unfortunately are double stacked, which I hate. You see that there. So your 4K disc has that 60s pop art style return. It's very nice. I like it a lot. Your Blu-ray disc is a squished up version of the poster art, which I think looks pretty good. And then your bonus disc has, "Where's my super suit?" right there on it, Frozone there. So that's nice. I hate how they double stack this though. I don't know why they do this. It's so annoying, but double stacked. So that wraps up your close-up. Let's move right along to the menu tour. Alright folks, here we are for a menu tour of Incredibles 2, starting off with our Blu-ray film disc. This menu is already a lot better than the first Incredibles menu because it's got actual like moving images and such. It's not just film clips. It's new artwork actually produced for the film. It looks amazing. I love this classic comic book style art with the simplistic polygon angles. It looks great. We have a bonus features little segment here. We have 2 short films. We have our Auntie Edna short film, which was brand new for this disc, and then the short film Bao, which I can't say without stuttering, so I apologize, but That premiered with the movie in theaters, I'm pretty sure. We have Strong Coffee, a lesson in animation with Brad Bird. And then we have a commentary track and a little info section there. So actually a pretty good amount of features on the actual Blu-ray, as opposed to just on the bonus features disc. I like that there's a commentary. We won't be seeing that with the 4K when we actually get there. But here we are for the scene selection. We have little titles for each with little screenshots. And then if I go to the end here, we have 35 scenes, 36 if you include the end credits. This movie actually runs about the same amount of time as the first Incredibles does, which is, honestly, kind of interesting. And for setup, languages, we have English 7.1, English 5.1, English 2.0, English 2.0 descriptive audio, French 5.1, Spanish 5.1. A lot of options for English there. For subtitles, we have English for the hearing impaired, English again, French and Spanish, and then a maximizer down there at the bottom. Which the maximizer, I guess, is for if you have a surround sound setup. I do not. I just have a Polk soundbar, so I don't need that. And then sneak peeks, I already checked that before we started. It's just the trailers from the beginning of this disc. Alright, here we are for our bonus features Blu-ray. Menu is in the same setup, but we do have some more options down here on the bottom. We have a bonus features tab, heroes and villains, vintage features, deleted scenes, trailers and promos, and subtitles. For bonus features, we've got Super Stuff, Paths to Pixar, Everyday Heroes, Super Baby, Ralph Eggleston, production designer and making the short film Bow. We also have an info tab. Heroes and villains, we have, this must be a mini documentary broken up into several parts, but you can play all the featurettes here. We've got one on Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, The Par Kids, Frozone, Edna Mode, Winston, Davor, Evelyn, Devor, and Wannabes. Vintage features. We have vintage toy commercials, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone. And then character theme songs, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone. Those are cool. I want to check those out before I actually record the ending portion of this video. Deleted scenes. Wow, a lot of deleted scenes here. We have a introduction to the deleted scenes, and then we have a list of them here. Oh, Kari was supposed to come back? Man, that would have been cool. But here's all of our deleted scenes, trailers and promos. We have Powers Global Teaser Trailer, Family Global Trailer, Theatrical Payoff, Japan Trailer, and then Super Moments Promo. And subtitles. That is a lot of subtitles that I am not going to read. You can pause the video yourself and read them, but I don't have time for that. Alright, and our last disc is the 4K film disc. This is going to look very similar to the Blu-ray disc, except it's a little bit darker on the 4K. It's got kind of a darker tint to it. It's not as bright as the Blu-ray disc is. I'm not really a fan of that. But we have our same options down there on the bottom. Play, scene selection, that's going to be the same as on the Blu-ray. The differences, as most of us know, are going to come in the settings. Languages, we have a Dolby Atmos mix for English, 7.1 mix, 5.1 mix, 2.0 mix, and 2.0 descriptive mix for English. And we have a French 7.1 and Spanish 7.1 mix, so that's cool. Subtitles include English, French, and Spanish. And then you can change the languages on your menu options down here to English, which is what it's set to now, English descriptive audio, and then French and Spanish. So that wraps things up for the menu tour. Let's head on back and answer the 5 main questions as always. Alright, so we're back from the close-up. Now it's time to answer the 5 main questions as always. Number 1, where can you pick this product up? I haven't seen this movie on store shelves probably since 2021. I don't even remember seeing the 2-movie collection on store shelves, so I'd say you could find plethoras of copies of these at used Blu-ray and DVD stores, half-price books, pawn shops, those kind of places. Number 2, is this product still being printed nowadays? It's been a year since the 2-movie collection came out, so I'm going to say no to that. Number 3, should you pick this product up? Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way first. I think Incredibles 2, drumroll please, is good. I actually really liked it upon rewatching it for this review. I still really like all of the main Incredibles cast. Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, the ones who voices the kids. I think Dash's voice actually got changed. I think I remember reading that. The kid that got to play him in the first movie, he'd aged out of the role by the time the second movie came around, so they had to get a different kid. But it's a really good sound-alike. I like them all. I think they give excellent vocal performances. I really enjoy the whole aspect of Mr. Incredible feeling like he's obsolete now that his wife is going out and being the big superhero. Sort of like a Mr. Mom type plotline going on there, with Bob being stuck at home, dealing with the kids. It's a bit cliche, but a lot of the jokes there, they work. That's not the way you're supposed to do it, Dad. They want us to do it this way. I don't know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math. Math is math. When I have to help my own kids with math one day, and I'm not good at math to begin with, I will be saying that when they tell me all these weird ways to do subtraction and addition and all that. It's probably going to have to do with, math being racist, because that's a thing now. Those scenes are great with Bob at home, helping out his kids with homework or boy trouble. I really like that he tries to help Violet with her boy troubles, and he just can't do it because he just doesn't understand. I don't know. Those parts I really dug. I really enjoyed that aspect of this movie, and it's one of the strongest aspects of this film. Craig T. Nelson is sounding a bit older, though. When you watch these movies back to back, you can tell there's been 14 years in between them. Same with Sam Jackson. He definitely sounds older as Frozone in this movie, but he still gives a pretty good performance as well. I love the revelation that Jack Jack has powers, too. There were some people back when this movie first came out saying that, how did they not know that Jack Jack had powers? Didn't they see him go after Syndrome in the first movie? Well, actually, they didn't. There was a line from Helen saying, I can't really see what's happening. I can't see. Like, there's a dropped line saying that they can't tell what's happening up in the sky. Because you gotta think, it's way up there in the sky where Syndrome's plane is. I mean, I couldn't be able to see that far, so I guess it makes sense. Kind of a retcon, though, but it does kind of make sense why they wouldn't know that Jack Jack has powers. Jack Jack fighting the raccoon is also a very funny scene. I very much enjoy that. It's also very funny to see Frozone and Mr. Incredible walk around the house saying, nom nom cookie, as Jack Jack is in another dimension. They just casually mention, yep, he's in another dimension. We just gotta get a cookie out to bring him out. He's in another freaking dimension. How does he do that? The main plot line, though, is Elastigirl, played by Holly Hunter. She gets much more of a focus here than in the first movie. She is now the face of superheroes, which makes total sense. I think that the Winston character, played by Bob Odenkirk, who I love, by the way. I don't know what it is about Bob Odenkirk, but I will watch that man do anything. Probably because of Better Call Saul. He's just amazing in that show, and he gives a great vocal performance here. By the way, if you haven't seen Nobody, you definitely should watch that. He is badass in that movie. His plan actually does make a whole lot of sense. Elastigirl is probably not as controversial as a lot of the other superheroes are, and she's the perfect way to bring supers back into the public consciousness. I love her plotline and how that works out, and how she meets these other new superheroes that are apparently have always been in the universe. I don't know how that worked out. They were never mentioned in the first movie, like Void. Obviously, she's a new character for this movie, but you would think that maybe in the past movie that these heroes would have been mentioned. I don't know, the movie kind of gets a little weird with that. They say they're brand new heroes, but yet they have costumes and everything, but you could also say the costumes were homemade. I don't know. I'm just going to give the movie that. It's a mulligan. Take it. The animation, oh my gosh, 14 years makes a huge difference in terms of animation. These character models look amazing. The environments are so detailed. I love everything about this animation style. The suits, I could see threads on their suits They like sparkled in the sunshine. They moved in a very realistic fashion. Elastigirl's hair even bounced as she walked, and I could see strands moving individually as she was fighting. The animation just looks absolutely amazing. Pixar, you knock it out of the park with this animation, and you just keep doing it. Their most recent film, Turning Red, the animation looks even better in that movie than it does here, and that came out this year. Like, I don't know how they keep making their movies look this good. The part of the film that really won me over and made me think, wow, this is a good idea for a sequel, is the Screenslaver aspect. Now, the Screenslaver, kind of a weak villain. I'll give you that. Not very compelling. But when you look at it as a commentary on modern society, especially with how our world has changed within the last couple of years, it kind of makes it a little bit better for me. In 2018, when the movie first came out, yeah, the Screenslaver seemed like kind of a weak villain, like, oh, it's kind of cliche and all that stuff, screens control everything, like it's holding a mirror to society and all that garbage and all that pretentious stuff. But then when you look at it after 2020 and how we were conditioned as a society to stay home and just consume content on screens, not go to work, not see our families, not interact with each other the way God created us to be, a communal people, having that part of our lives stripped from us because of a virus, the Screenslaver to me becomes way more relatable as a villain because of what happened in 2020 and what still continues to happen today in certain states in our union. In a way, the Screenslaver really is holding up a mirror to society because it's literally what's happening right now in our world. We are being conditioned and told that all we should do is sit in our bubbles and consume content on our screens. Don't talk to anyone, don't look at anyone, don't go to a job, don't see your family, just consume through a screen. Does it make the Screenslaver more compelling? Not particularly. I think that's still the weakest aspect of this movie, but looking at it in context of what has happened over these last couple of years, I feel like this movie gets a bit better. Now that the last few years have happened, we can now look at this movie in a completely different light. I don't know, that's the biggest thing that stood out to me while watching Incredibles 2, especially after what has happened this last year. Again, that is just what stood out to me. That was my own interpretation. If you guys have a different one, let me know down in the comments. The action scenes are great. They're fun. I love when Dash and Violet and Jack have to steal the Incredicar. He calls it to the house from the guy who bought it. And oh gosh, there's so many memorable action sequences in this movie. One that stands out to me is the one that is the climax on the big boat. Which, side note, if your parents were taken over by these goggle things that the Screenslaver uses to make the superheroes evil, if your parents were taken over by those, wouldn't you be a little freaked out too? I don't know. If I was their age, in fact, even a bit younger, I would be kind of scared by that, to think that my parents would do that. My dad's a big dude. I don't think I could take that guy in a fight. I think the only negative I have, aside from the fact that the Screenslaver is not a hugely compelling villain, unless you're looking at it from a modern society standpoint, is the fact that it just kind of feels like a regular sequel. It doesn't feel special. It just feels like, oh, this is another chapter in the Incredibles universe. And when you wait 14 years for a sequel and it's just kind of average, you're going to feel a bit disappointed by it. When I first walked out of Incredibles 2, I thought, I waited 14 years for that? It was just kind of average? Huh. Okay, I guess. I mean, it was good, but I waited 14 years for an average sequel? Not something that was better? Not something that blew my socks off? I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. But now, looking back on it, again from a modern society standpoint, and from knowing that this is just another chapter in the Incredibles universe, I kind of like it more now, if that makes any sense. I just kind of wish that Brad Bird hadn't pitched this movie as, oh, I had to wait for a really good idea for an Incredibles 2 sequel before I made one. If you're going off of, hey, my idea is we're going to bring superheroes back into the public light, and there's a villain who wants to make superheroes not be in the public light again, if you're going to go with that for your main pitch as your brilliant sequel, I don't know, man, maybe go back to the drawing board with that one. I mean, if this had been a sequel that came out, 3-4 years after the first Incredibles movie, yeah, I feel like we'd all look on it with fonder eyes. Hell, maybe even 7 or 8 years. But 14? I don't know, I still kind of struggle with that fact. We waited 14 years for this sequel, and it was just average. But average doesn't mean it's a bad movie, because it's not a bad movie. It's a very fun film. It's a family movie. It has a lot of good messages in it about fatherhood and how to let go and let other members of your family have the spotlight. How not to spend countless hours of time just consuming content on screens. Go out, live your life. It has very good messages throughout it. And as much as I'm saying that, well, I was kind of disappointed with it when I first saw it, watching it now, I really enjoy Incredibles 2. And I think that if you haven't seen it yet, you definitely should. I'm giving this a recommend. You should definitely watch Incredibles 2 if you haven't seen it. And if you saw it when it first came out and you didn't like it, give it a rewatch. You might just be surprised at how much you like it now as opposed to then. It's funny how time can change your perspective on certain movies. And I'm sure that in 5-10 years, my opinion might change on this movie again. I might hate this movie in 5 or 10 years. Who knows? The future is uncertain, but right now, I very much enjoy Incredibles 2, and you should definitely give it a watch. Number 4, where should you pick this product up? Same answers as number 1. And number 5, what price should you pay? Well, the 4K release of this is, I think, the best version. I obviously very much enjoy 4K. I'm a big proponent of it. Although I don't think the 4K transfer on this movie is anything too spectacular. 4K and animation is a weird medium because animation looks great in 1080p. I don't really know how upscaling it to 4K makes it look any better. I mean, obviously I watched it in 4K for this review. It looks good. Is it better than 1080p? Yeah, there might be a little more crisp lines on it, but I didn't notice much of a difference. I think the 4K, though, has pretty great artwork on its slipcover and such, so I'd say if you want that version, $20 or so might be what I'd pay for it. I paid, MSRP of $30 back in the day, so now it's probably lost some of its value. For the Blu-ray, that thing is as common as bricks, so $10 for that, perhaps. The DVD, you shouldn't buy that. Don't even. I don't know about value for the Steelbook or the Target exclusive, though. I don't know if that Steelbook became a particularly valuable one, or it became one of the ones that just sat on store shelves and they had to clearance them out, like the Target exclusive. So I don't know what you should pay for those. Whatever price seems good to you. So that wraps up my review of Incredibles 2. It's a weird movie that I have a weird, complicated relationship with, but I enjoy it. I think is really the prevailing opinion on it that I have, and I think you should watch it. I'm feeling the whole superhero thing here, guys. You know how much I love superhero movies. I'm a big Marvel Comics and DC fan, so why don't we keep up the superhero trend and talk about another very popular animated superhero movie, one that came out the same year as Incredibles 2 and that blew away audiences with just how good it was. I'm not going to mince words. We're talking about Spider-Verse next week. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I loved this movie when I first saw it. I cannot wait to rewatch it for the review next week. I hope to see you all there. Thank you all so very much for watching, and as always, good night, everybody.